All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to PS 79's reopening town hall. We are going to get started. Please just remember that if your camera is on, everyone can potentially see you. And please remember to keep your microphones on mute throughout the meeting. Tonight, we're going to do our very best to answer as many questions as we possibly can and give you some insight into our planning process for September. So without further ado, we're going to begin. And Ms. Paquette, if you can go to our first slide. Okay, the first thing I want to go over with everyone from the community is the programming models that are available to elementary schools. So just to go over the key tenets of the Chancellor and the DOE's plan, families and students will be able to opt out of in-person instruction and choose remote learning full-time. There will be defined periods of time when parents can opt back in from full remote to the blended model. We're going to be using split models of instruction based on local constraints. Schools can determine a split model from a set of choices, and we're going to go over those choices in a moment. And we're going to utilize whatever space we can. So one of the things I will say up front is potential classrooms might be moved this year. Like, for instance, I'll use Miss O'Donnell's room as an example. Miss O'Donnell's art room is one of the bigger rooms we have in the building. So more than likely a classroom that's in a smaller class would get moved to that class for the year. Okay, as I take us into our next slide, we'll start to look at the models. So model 1 has two options. There's model 1A and model 1B. Model 1A, sorry, the lobby keeps popping up and blocking my model. Hold on, let me pull up my own slides maybe. There we go. Okay, sorry about that, folks. So model 1A and model 1B consists of two groups of blended model of instruction. We have group A and group B, and then we have a separate cohort for group D, which is 100% remote. So if you look at model 1A, you'll see that group A on week 1 comes Monday and Tuesday and Thursday, and group B comes Wednesday and Friday. And then in week 2, group B comes Monday and Wednesday and Friday, and Tuesday and Thursday is for group A. And you'll look from week to week, you'll notice that group A is always in on Tuesdays, group B is always in on Thursdays, and Wednesdays for group B, and Fridays also for group B, and then they rotate the Monday and Tuesday. If you look at model 1B, very similar schedule, just the days flipped a little bit. So in week 1, group A would be in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and group B Thursday, Friday. And then the following week, group A is in Tuesday and Wednesday, and group B is in Monday, Thursday, and Friday. So group A always on Tuesday, Wednesday, group B always on Thursday, Friday, and then they would rotate the Mondays. Okay, as we look at our next slide, that brings us to model 2, which is the other option for elementary schools. This model shows us what it might look like for a school that would require 3 cohorts. So you see we have an A, B, and C cohort, and then we have the D 100% remote cohort. So in week 1, group A would come on Mondays and Wednesdays, group B would come on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and group C would come on Fridays. In week 2, group B would come on Mondays and Thursdays. Group C would come on Tuesdays and Fridays, and group A would come on only Wednesdays. And then in week 3, group C on Mondays, group A Tuesday, Wednesday, group B on Thursdays, and group C on Fridays. And if you look across the 3 weeks, group A is always in on Wednesday, group B is always in on Thursday, and group C is always in on Friday, and they rotate the Mondays and Tuesdays. Okay, so now we'll look at our next slide. So a couple of things that coming to consensus, the SLT planning process. So in determining next steps for the year and our best course of action, I've been meeting with the school leadership team, which is comprised of both staff and family members. We reviewed key data. The first thing we looked at was our PASS survey. For those of you who don't know, the PASS survey provides information on space in the building, and using that survey and the formula provided by the city, we're able to determine the range of the total number of people that can be in a specific room at one time. We also reviewed the survey results when the return to school survey filled out by parents. Following that, we conducted a building walkthrough. I want to thank Ms. Macari, our PTA president, took part in that with us, where we looked at space. We set up what a classroom might look like. And as of today, if things were to start today, if the start of school was tomorrow, we would be looking at Model 2 as the tentative choice for September. That's the 3 cohort model based on the size of our school. So next, I'm going to show you an example on the next slide of what a classroom might look like. You'll see the desks are spread out. You'll see the desks are grouped in 2 together. But the one thing I want to make clear, if desks are grouped like that, 2 together, that means for different cohorts, so only one child would be sitting at one of those desks, and then the other desk would be for the child that's in the cohort the following day. So one of our rooms might look similar to this, where it's spread out, where we'd measure about 6 feet of distance between each desk. And so the rooms would look very different. So as we move forward, PPE and safety measures is our next slide for in school. Social distancing will be in effect. All staff and students will be required to wear a mask to school. If you don't have a mask, masks will be provided for you for those who need them on a daily basis. Hand sanitizer is being provided and stations are being installed. I can actually speak that I have seen some stations are already installed in the school. Filters are on the ventilation systems are being upgraded. The last time when I was in school last week, the custodial staff was measuring to get the appropriate size to upgrade to the the virus keep out grade, excuse me, ventilation system filters. So they are in the process of doing that. And the building will be disinfected nightly. The city is using electrostatic disinfection tools. So that's where they spray a disinfectant across the entire room every night. It does not need to be wiped down, and it kills the coronavirus and any other virus that potentially could be there. Okay, on the next slide. Where are we now in our process? We are planning for siblings to be in the same cohort. My team and I are in the process of identifying all the siblings in the building to ensure that they would come on the same day. Official class numbers may change from what you received in June as we get more information and more data on who's going fully remote and what teachers might be granted a medical accommodation. So those are the 2 things that we're waiting on right now. That's going to determine for sure which direction we go in. We are planning for students to stay in their classrooms for the large majority of the day. The potential exceptions could be lunch and physical education. With the reduced number of students in the building each day, we potentially could be able to use the cafeteria with social distancing in place, and the gym also would be able to be used. It would look a little different. We wouldn't be able to use equipment. It would be mostly calisthenics, but it is a possibility. All other specials, for example, like dance, music, and art would be pushing into the classrooms, and things like art would look very different because we are limited and we obviously cannot have students share materials in the current situation. Next slide. So I want to thank you all who submitted questions online. I'm gonna have Mrs. Grimple fire some at me, and a lot of the questions were very similar, so we did try to condense them for questions that overlapped, and I will do my best to answer. You will hear me say, I'm going to be upfront and honest, you will hear me say that I am awaiting further guidance on several and a majority of the questions, but I'll do the best to give you the answers that I have today. All right, Mrs. Grimple, I am ready whenever you are.
Okay, hi everybody. One of the first questions that we had is, will live teaching occur at a certain time on remote learning days? Will pre-recorded lessons also be available?
Okay, this is an excellent question. This is one of the biggest questions that I received, and I think all principals across the city. Here's what I can say. As the chancellor has said, there will be an expectation of live instruction on a daily basis from the teachers for the students that are remote. What exactly that will look like and how much time is required each day is something that we are negotiating with our union partners. When I say we, I'm referring to the Department of Education. So that is something that is being negotiated, but my understanding is there will be a mandated requirement of live instruction each day. But I also do think there will be recorded lessons available, similar to like we did in the spring. I know that a lot of teachers made use of that because different students were available at different times of the day. So I do fully expect that that will be something that we maintain as a part of our model of instruction.
Okay, the next question was, will siblings be on the same schedule?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, that is our #1 priority right now. Listen, as a parent, I know for myself, my wife and I are struggling already, waiting to see what our children's schedule will be. So the first priority we have is to identify siblings in the building and make sure that they're aligned in the same cohort to make it as easy as possible for our parents.
Our next question is, pertaining to our early drop-off program at 7:30, and this family is worrying or asking, will we be able to continue with early drop-off at 7:30 for working parents? And if so, how will students be kept safe in the auditorium?
Okay, it's an excellent question. I would love to continue the early drop-off, and I have every intention to continue it. The one caveat being, I have to see how many staff members are going to be available. I don't have all the data yet on who is putting in for a medical accommodation, but I have every intention to continue that program because I'll say, as a working parent myself, I know how helpful that can be. With regards to social distancing in the auditorium, we're lucky that the auditorium is one of the largest spaces we have in the building. And also you have to keep in mind, if we were to start school tomorrow, we would be in 3 cohorts. So at a maximum, there'd be 1/3 the amount of students in the building each day, which would make it much easier to social distance them in the auditorium. We could spread them out.
Now you asked, you had already shared this already, but you might want to just reiterate it. Which model of blended learning is the school leaning towards for the fall?
As of right now, we are leaning towards the 3 cohort model, but potentially that could change depending on how many families choose full remote for their students.
Okay. Will the school provide textbooks for 100% remote students? And will our PS 79 teachers be teaching our children remotely?
Excellent questions. I can say we did do the same number of orders for textbooks that we do on a yearly basis. So the textbooks will absolutely be available. The only thing I would have to say, we have to wait for further guidance on how we could distribute them to the families, but they absolutely would be available. We would have enough for everyone, both in school and remote. And I'm sorry, Mrs. Grimble, can you repeat the second part of the question?
Yes. Will PS 79 teachers be teaching our kids remotely?
That would be my preference. The one thing that we're waiting to see is how many teachers are available. It would depend on how many teachers are granted the medical accommodation. So as of right now, I've only received 1 report. And it's a very limited number of staff members that have applied for it. And I won't know yet until if they're approved for that medical accommodation. So that is to be determined.
Okay. If the fully remote option is chosen by families, are teachers accessible during school hours?
My understanding is that they will be accessible during school hours. As I mentioned earlier, my understanding is there'll be a live component that is required. I know that the DOE is negotiating that with our union partners. So as soon as we have further guidance on that, I will absolutely let the community know.
Okay. For students who are planning on going fully remote, will technology be provided to them?
Yes, we will do our best to provide technology. You can also request iPads from the city. I'll have that posted tonight on Parent Square, the link where you can make the request and they send it right to your house. And I'll also have that posted on the PS 79 website, ps79q.org. So we'll make sure that goes out again so parents have the option. You can also find it on the DOE website.
Okay. I believe you touched on this again as well, but the students who were split into their classes at the end of last year, will they remain the same, whether students choose all remote learning or not? Or will all students in the same grade that choose remote learning become their own class?
That's an excellent question. We are awaiting further guidance on that. From what I can say, for the classes that we formed at the end of the year, those are very tentative, because as people choose to go remote or opt out to go remote, and with regards to siblings, we might have to slide kids in and out of different cohorts to accommodate everyone. So they are tentative, but you will get further guidance on that towards the end of August. As we know, you will know, and you will get your child's class assignment and their schedule.
Would families be able to get a copy of the curriculum for the year with remote learning?
We will do our very best to make that available. We're going to try and be as transparent and forthcoming as possible. So everything that we can provide to make this a smooth transition for families, we will do.
Okay. If we choose blended learning, how will schoolwork be broken up between in-person and online?
That's an excellent question. That is one that we are still awaiting some guidance on. Obviously, some will be in person, some will be done remotely, but we are still awaiting more guidance from Central on that.
Okay. As far as aftercare programs, will you still be allowing aftercare programs to pick up the kids in the auditorium?
My understanding is they will still be able to pick up, but what I will say is that there will probably be procedures in place, not only for aftercare programs, but for any families that need to enter the building. Like for instance, I'll use the main office as an example. There will be a limit on the number of people that can be in the main office at one time. So I do ask that everyone please put in the back of your mind now that we're all going to need a tremendous amount of patience this year. It's not going to be something where you can just walk into the building and go right to the main office. There will be procedures in place to ensure social distancing and the safety of both students and staff.
Will children be still be having breakfast or snack in classrooms? And will they be wearing face shields during meal times?
Here's what I'll tell you about what I can with regards to school foods this year. Everything will be grab and go. So my understanding is breakfast in the classrooms, there'll be something, if it's not exactly the same, there will be something similar where there'll be bagged breakfasts provided. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be able to do snack in the classrooms like we normally do. Obviously, there would be no sharing of snack, and strict procedures would have to be in place with regards to that. With regards to face shields, I don't know at this time. The only thing I can say for sure is that masks are required every day for both students and staff, and if they don't have one will be provided for them.
Okay, next question. What are the accommodations for the students who choose to be fully remote in terms of assigning a teacher for their online classes? The chancellor had mentioned that substitute teachers could be hired to teach, but who will decide which group of students, remote versus blended, will be getting the substitutes as opposed to our experienced teachers?
It's an excellent question. Unfortunately, it's one that I don't have all the information that I can answer at this time. Again, teachers, they have asked staff to put in for the medical accommodation if they're requesting it by July 31st. However, that is not a hard deadline. Teachers and staff can put in for it at any time. Principals are receiving the reports on a rolling basis. We received the first one last week. I expect another one this week to see if any other staff members have applied for the accommodation. So it's all going to depend on how many people apply and also how many people receive approval to work remotely. And then we'll be able to determine who is teaching who, whether it be remote, whether it be in person, will we need substitute teachers, et cetera. So there's still a lot to be determined with regards to that. As I have information, I will absolutely turnkey that to the community.
Another question, how will grading be determined for report cards for the fully remote students?
Guidance is forthcoming regarding grading. I know last year we had the DOE changed the grading policy. There has not been a final decision made at this time for the 2021 school year. As we know what the decision is, we will absolutely share that with the community.
Okay. If school supplies were already ordered via the First Day School Supplies company to ship directly to the school, should these be canceled if my child is doing remote learning only?
That's a question I would actually turn over to Ms. McCarry, the PTA president. I'm not sure if they can be canceled, but that is something I will definitely forward to Ms. McCarry, and hopefully she will be able to answer that question.
I will look
into hi, Ms. McCarry.
Hi. I will definitely look into it, but if anybody needs anything shipped directly to their home, it can be dropped off, it can be mailed, however they choose, and or I'll look into getting stuff refunded.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. McCarry.
When doing remote learning, how will tests be taken?
It's an excellent question. Obviously, it will be very different. Some things like Envisions have an online component where the children can take the test online, but we're obviously going to adapt and adjust accordingly, and certain things will have to change. And we're going to have to be quite frank, we're all going to have to be very innovative in our practice this year, and it's going to be on an evolving basis.
What will the deep cleaning protocol, what is that protocol that's supposed to be taking place after each school day?
Okay, so I actually just discussed with my custodian on this. They are going to get something called, and forgive me with the pronunciation, an electrostromometer. Like it's basically where they go into the room and there's a spray of a chemical that goes across the room that kills any virus. I know, Ms. McCarry, you know how to pronounce it probably better than I do because I know this is your area, one of your areas of expertise. So if you want to jump in on that, please feel free. But my understanding is that's what they're going to use. They're going to spray down every room every night. And I do understand, and I'll confirm it's a custodian, but I know last year some of the things they did in places during the day, there was any frequent like touch places, like a door handle or something was wiped down on a daily throughout the day. So I do expect that that will be also maintained this year. But every room will be sprayed down every night, and it's not something that needs to be wiped down. It's just you spray it, they leave it, and within a couple of minutes, it kills all the viruses on any surface.
Yes, Mr. Carter, you're absolutely right. We use it at our company, and basically it's just a spray. Everybody uses different chemicals, so what we use might not be the same as the DOE is using, but basically you just spray it over, and actually one use is good for 30 days. So if they're spraying it daily, it's overkill, way overkill, but to ensure the safety, I get it.
Thank you, Ms. McCarry. Appreciate it.
Next question, will it be possible to withdraw a student from classes to homeschool mid-year?
Well, let me see if I understand the question. To actually withdraw it for remote learning, a parent can do it anytime. So say you start with blended model in September, you realize you would prefer to go 100% remote, a parent can do that anytime. To go from full remote to the blended model, there's going to be quarterly windows where parents can opt back in. I believe the first one is either in late October or early to mid-November. As soon as we have those dates, we'll make those available. If you want to actually homeschool your child and withdraw them from the New York City Department of Education, there is paperwork that would have to be filled out. And Ms. Woolley, our pupil accounting secretary, if you come to that decision, you can contact her and she'll take you through that process.
Okay, as far as bus service, will there be any, whether it's public or private?
At this time, that is something we are awaiting further guidance on with regards to busing. So I can't answer that at this time, but as soon as I have information, I will turnkey that to the community.
Okay. I think you touched on this, but we can revisit it. Will the children stay in their classroom all day? Will they be going to the gym or the cafeteria?
For the large majority of their day, they will stay in their classroom. Teachers will go to them. For example, the cluster. We do believe, just based on the walkthrough that we did with Ms. McCarry and the planning team, that gym is an option where we could get students in there. Again, it would be different than normal gym. It would be mostly calisthenics. It wouldn't be equipment, so we couldn't play basketball, volleyball, anything where they're touching equipment and sharing equipment would not be an option. But we would potentially be able to have them in there and maintain social distancing. We also think potentially we could use the cafeteria for lunch with assigned seating and having the children spread out. We may have to add an additional lunch period, so instead of 3, having 4, but we would be able to maintain social distancing. So it is an option that the planning team and school leadership team and I are going over. And as soon as we have more information and more data on our numbers, it is something that potentially could be an option. But for the large majority of the day, the students will be in their classrooms. And I'll be quite frank, one of the things, it's been a lot of talk about how we're going to have to focus on social emotional learning for the children on the start of the year, and it is critical that we do that. But the other thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to teach our children how to exist in a socially distant school. It's not something they've ever had to do before, and it's going to be a significant change for our kids. So we are going to have to spend significant time teaching the kids how to walk socially distanced in the hallway, teaching the kids that they can only use certain staircases for up and certain for down and so on and so forth, and how to do gym and do physical education in a socially distanced world. So it is going to be a learning experience for all of us, and we're going to have to put significant time in, not only for our social emotional needs of our students, but also just teaching them how to exist in this new world.
And that was the last question, Mr. Carter.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Gribble. So the one thing I will say, folks, and listen, I understand I'm a parent of 2 young boys. You all know me well. This is a very frustrating time for me, both personally and professionally. And I know for you, it's frustrating as well, because there's a tremendous amount of unknowns. You have my solemn promise that my team and I are working hard. Every week we meet to go over this and see what we can do to make this easier on families and easier on our students. And as I get more information, I promise I will turnkey that to the entire community, and I will keep you in the loop. I will be honest with you, it's going to be a tight turnaround, and I don't think we'll know for sure until late August. But as soon as we do, we will get information out to parents. You'll know your child's schedule, and we will do our best to make this work. And as always, we'll come through it together as a PS 79 community. So, and you can rest assured that if need be, we'll have another town hall as we get closer and I get more information. But please also know things are changing very fast, minute to minute. So everything that I've said tonight at 6 o'clock could potentially change tomorrow. I have a meeting tomorrow afternoon with the chancellor. Principals are meeting with the chancellor tomorrow afternoon. So hopefully I'll get more information with that meeting. But we're going to get through this together. We are a community, and I'm fully confident no matter what it looks like, we will make it work for our kids. Okay, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you turning out. This will be, if anyone wasn't able to attend or got bounced off due to technology, we are going to post this on Parent Square at the recording, and we are going to post it on our ps79q.org website. So we just need to edit it down a little bit to make sure it's on YouTube and it fits, and we'll make it an easy YouTube link for people to view. So thank you all. Please stay safe. Please tell the children I miss them dearly. I miss their smiling faces every day, and I look forward. I really hope to see everyone soon back in the school building. So everyone have a great night. I hope you're enjoying summer and getting outside and getting some fresh air. Thank you.